project. We will be installing all those dependencies, package and libraries for our project. I will be listing all those in the notes section below. You can follow the same. Also, I will be maintaining this project with version control, and for that I'm going to use Git and GitHub. I will follow enterprise level folder as well as code structure. And we will be building this app as a monolithic architecture for the simplicity and better understanding of yours. Let's create a folder with name bookshop. I'll create a folder with name bookshop. Alright, and then I'll open it with VS Code editor. For those who don't know what is VS Code editor, I will paste the download link. You can download it from Microsoft website. It is a code editor. It supports hundreds of languages, different programming languages. You can write code here and then you can build your application. All right. So here we are going to create two different folders. One is for client or front end or UI, and other is going for server application. So I will name it as a client and server respectively. Let's create that. So it's going to be client, and then I'm going to create one more folder, server. All right, first I'm going to create or initialize Golang inside the server. For that, what I will do is I'll open new terminal, and then I will move to server folder, and there I will write the command to create a project for Golang. So how we are going to create a project for Golang? We have a command go mode init and then the module name. So here I'm going to follow the instruction given by Golang. So basically the domain name and then the project name. I'm going to host this application on GitHub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type github.com, which is going to be a domain, and then slash my name Mohammad Zaid Hussain, and then the project name. I'm going to give project name as bookshop, and finally I will hit enter. Now you can see there's one file created with name go.mode, right? Let's go into that file and see what is there exactly. So here we can see the module name which we created from the command line, right? So using this module only, we are going to import all those packages and rest of the thing in our throughout application, right? And then finally we have Golang version over here. That is the latest version as of now, 1.23.3. And if you don't have that Golang installed in your system, Mac system, Windows system or Linux system, I have created a separate video on installing how to install a Go in your system, right? So first what I'll do is inside server I'm going to create a main file. So every Golang has main entry point from where the execution of the application is to be started, right? So I'll name it as a main package. So Golang file must be inside a package, right? We all know that. So without further delaying, I will write main function, right? So this is how our main function looks like. And then finally inside that, I'm going to use println function, which is going to print some text onto the console so that we can say, okay, our application is running successfully, right? So I'll write the code here. For example, let's say Go app started successfully, right? Let me save it and run it. And then how we are going to run our Go application, we can just do run and then go, then final the file which we are going to execute, so main.go. all right, I pasted the wrong command. Actually it should be go run main.go, right? You can see here Go app started successfully. So basically we have set up our Go app as a very basic application here. Moving forward, we'll be downloading all those dependencies which is required for our application. We'll be installing JSON web token library, which is through which we are going to authenticate the request. We are going to use MongoDB client library, which we are going to use for connecting with the database, and couple of lot more libraries which we are going to use. We'll install that later. Now let's first go inside client folder, and then we'll initialize a Vue Ionic project. How we are going to do that? For that we have a separate command. Let me show you that. First I'll go here on Vue Ionic website. What is Vue Ionic? It's nothing. Already I talked about it. Vue Ionic is a framework. It's a cross-platform framework which is a wrapper on Vue.js. So basically we are going to write a project in a Vue and we can run it anywhere on the platform. For example, web, mobile application or iOS application, right? So let's open this and we'll follow a couple of commands so that we can set up Vue Ionic project in our local. First, what we have to do is we have to install the client, right? I'll copy this command and then I'll go back in the project. Here what I need to do is I'll clear this and then I'll go back. I'll just paste that command and then I'll put enter. You can see download has been started, right? We have to wait couple of minutes so that it has been downloaded successfully. It depends on the machine to machine how fast it is getting downloaded, and also it depends on the internet, the Vue Ionic project, and for that we need a different command. So now I scroll down below and here we can see Ionic start and then the folder name and then type is going to be Vue. So we are going to follow Vue since we are going to create this application using Vue. And the interesting thing about Ionic is we can use React as well as Angular as well, right? That's interesting, right? But since we are going to make project on Vue, so we are going to use Vue.js here and then we can make our project accordingly. So what I'll do here is I will just copy this from here and then I will come to the root folder, and then what we are going to do is first I'm going to delete this client folder since it will be created automatically using this command which I have copied from Vue Ionic website. I'll paste that command here and instead of my app what I'll do is I'll put client, right? Okay, it's giving some security error. That means we don't have access to terminal to launch this command. Okay, so if you guys are facing the same issue, that is not an issue exactly, but the thing is terminal has not been given access to run this command. So for that simplicity what I'll do is I will just go inside this folder, root folder, and I'll open the command. Okay, I'll open the command prompt and I will execute the same command here, right? I'll change the name as client and then I'll put enter. Let's wait for a couple of minutes and our download should have started. Okay, we can see download has been started successfully. It will take some time to download it fully since there will be a lot of dependencies inside, and then we will proceed accordingly. Okay, now finally we can see it has been downloaded successfully, and then it will prompt for some of the options. It will take some I'm not going to create any Ionic account, and then let's see. All right, it has been now initialized successfully. Let's go back to our project and we'll see. As we can see, we have created the folder over here, right? And all the dependencies and file which is required to start this Ionic project is present there, right? Now, since we are going to use JavaScript for this application, Vue.js application.
So we have to remove all those dependencies that is related to TS, and then we have to replace the TS file with the JavaScript file, but not actual view file. All the JS file, sorry, all the TS file should have been converted to JS file. And for that, let's go back to Ionic website, and there we can find couple of command that will remove all those dependencies which is not required for this tutorial. All right, so let me copy this command. You can see remove TypeScript dependencies here, right? I will just copy this command and then again go back to command prompt. Here what I will do is I will just go inside client folder, right? And then I'll paste those command here and put enter. Let's see. You can see it. Yeah, you can see the command has been successful. That means all those dependencies, TypeScript dependencies might have been removed from here. How we can verify that? Let's go back in package.json where all of the dependencies of the Vue application or Ionic application is to be maintained, right? We can see a couple of changes here, right? That has been removed from here. If I will just click on these changes, you can see TypeScript, right? We test and then view TSC that is required to compile TypeScript program, right? That has been removed successfully, and we don't need that as of now since we are going to proceed with the JavaScript, right? So that's fine. And then I need couple of more dependencies here. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the client folder, and then I need Axios, which is a famous client library to call any network request, right? What does that mean is using this library we can call any of the API. All right, so for that we need Axios. If you want any other library you can use, you're free to use, just play with that so that you will have better understanding of all those libraries or dependencies. So I'll take Axios, and then I will install one more plugin that will be useful when our application, Vue application, is going to build. Why we are going to install these dependencies? Because since we are going to make our Vue application, right, it should be at the time of build, it should be optimized in terms of size, right? Size matters, so that our application will be much faster. It won't take much time to load when we are going it to deploy on production, right? For that what I need is vt plugin and then compression. This is one of the package in node npm. Using this package, when we are going to build this, it will compress our application and reduce its sizes. So let me press enter, and then we are almost done with all the dependencies that is required for this project, and then we'll start finally replacing all those TS files and into JavaScript file, right? So let me just rename it, and I will put JS here, right? Okay, here we don't need type anymore. All right. Okay, first we'll go on website and we'll see what all we need to change all the TS file to JS file, right? In a blank, okay, this should be only this should only be TS, main TS if you're using test. Also change this extension, right? So I'm going to change main file as well, and where that exists here. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as a JS file, right? I'll go here, and then couple of things I'll remove it from here. I don't need this CSS for now, or let it be there. We'll remove it later on. And what else we are going to do? Okay, for now this is fine. TS config, right? Let it be as it is. And then capacitor, it is showing us error, right? We don't need capacitor config for now since we are going to use JavaScript, so that type is not necessary at all. Next what we are going to do is remove ESLint or something, ESLint file will be there, ESLint, right? So we are going to remove that file. Okay, that is not required for our project. Next I'm going to remove this test file as well, Cypress. We don't need that anymore. As of now we are not going for testing the application. Maybe later we can do that, then we will import that file. So delete vt envd.ts file if it is there. Let's see, env.ts file, right? We can remove that as well. Fine. And what next? Delete tsconfig.json file. Do we need this? No. So I'm going to remove this file as well, since this is a supportive file for compilation of TypeScript to JavaScript. And then finally we need to remove language as a TS from all of the view files, right? So let me go back to view files. Okay, here index file is also there. So what I'll do is I'll just rename it to JS, and then we can remove this extra type from here, right? And then rest of the thing will be as it is. We don't need this type anymore. I'll remove it from here, and we'll check theme will be there. Okay, views, this is view file. So what we are going to do here is we'll go inside, and then here you can see we are following setup script and language as a TypeScript. We are not going to use setup script in this video lecture. Instead what we are going to use is we are going to use options API. And why we are going to use option API? Because when we are going to create a big project, option API looks much better. It is easy to maintain, very easy to maintain, and the code which we are going to write is going to be very clean. So it will be based on, basically, if you will say, it will be totally based on the object kind of notation. Everything will be coming under some object, so it will be very familiar for us. We don't have to learn any extra things from outside, so that we can be comfortable with that. That's why I'm going to use options API here. Maybe in some other video we'll see how setup API is working, right? So I'm going to remove it from here, and then we can see a couple of import from Ionic, which already we expect, right? That should be there, since we are going to create view application along with the Ionic, right? So now let it be. Okay, I will go in app.view, and from here also I'm going to remove this, since this is no more required. And finally, test folder. We don't need this test folder as of now. I'm not going to show how we are going to test the application, but maybe later if we need that, we can integrate testing as well. So that doesn't come under the scope of this project, so I'm going to remove that. If you need it, maybe I'll create a separate video on that, and I'll integrate and show you how we are going to test that, right? So now we are almost ready, and then I'll save it, and then what I'll do is I'll just go, okay, I'm already there inside the client folder. What I'll do is I'll do npm, how we can run the project. We can see here npm, not npm, but Ionic serve is the command we can run, right? So what I'll do here is I'll just put Ionic, since we downloaded Ionic client library at the very beginning, right? So we'll have access for Ionic library, and using that we can run our application. What I'm going to do is Ionic, I'm just going to run this command Ionic serve, and it will start our application. Okay, so this also we cannot run because of security. That's kind of irritating. Maybe later I will fix these issues, but for now I'm going to just initiate that command from here. All right, Ionic serve. Let's see how it goes. Okay, we can see here our Ionic application has been started, and it will automatically redirect us to website, right, for the default website, right? And then all things will be loading there. There might be some issue because of that. this file has not loaded successfully. And what is that? Let's see that in console. The server responded with the status of 404. And what does that exactly means? It is going to search src main.ts, right? But we don't have the ts file over there. So what we are going to do next? All right. Do we have extra ts file over there? Okay, here vtep plugin is there, right? We should also rename that to js file so that it will pick all those dependency, not dependency, but the thing is, since we have removed all the TypeScript dependency from here, so this vt will also be taking the JavaScript kind of thing, not kind of thing, but exactly the JavaScript, right? So for that we need to change this file as well, and then I will remove this tsconfig file. We don't need that file, right? So this is it. I hope this should be working fine. Let's see. I will just close this. I will run that command once more and we will see how it goes. Now it will again once more redirect us to website, and again it's not loading. Let's see what is getting printed. It's showing main.ts is there, right? So that means that ts file still exists somewhere, or it is being referenced, right? But where it is being referenced, we need to check that. Hopefully it should be in package.json. We'll verify that over here. vt build and then ESLint. No, I don't find that here. So let's go back to vt-config and let's see if it is there. Okay, here also I'm not able to find that. Then where can be the possibility? So main.js is here, right? Any ts file is getting imported here. No, not at all. Then from where we are getting those errors? The server responded, and where, let's click this main.ts file. How it is loading main.ts file, even though ts file has been completely removed from the application, right? So let's debug this, and this is how we are going to code in real world. We cannot do everything 100%, right? There might be some issues, and then we'll be fixing those issues, and finally we'll build an application, right? The same way we are going to do when we are going to work for the company, or we are going to work for our project, right? So let's do that and see how it goes. View daughter, that is fine. There's no involvement of ts file over here. Here no involvement. Okay, here also there's no involvement, maybe in Ionic config.json file. No, here also there's no involvement. Index file, let's see. Okay, here we found that, right? It is referring, this script should be loaded from the main.ts file. That's what mentioned here. But actually we have changed that file to JS file, JS extension, right? It should be loading the JS file. There's no more main.ts file. So here also we need to make changes .js, and then we'll see if it is loading successfully or not. Okay, you can see here it is loading, I believe. What happens? Home. There's nothing. Let me refresh the page. Failed to resolve component ion router outlet. Why is that? Let's see. Ion router outlet is there, so this should be working fine actually. Okay, so thing is here we are no more following setup API, right? So it won't register it automatically, but instead we need to tell explicitly to the Vue.js that I'm going to use this component, I'm going to use this package or data. So you need to register this component, register this as a component, right? Even though it is present there, right? We have imported there, but since we didn't say explicitly to Vue.js that you need to register this component, we cannot proceed further, right? It will show us an error and the page won't load. So for that, what we are going to do is first we are going to write export default, and then First we are going to write the name of this is completely option. It is required. Why? Because all the Vuejs script is to be included inside this export default only, so that this file is being exported and we can use it wherever we want inside this Vue application, right? So here what I'll do is I'll put the name of this file as app, so that why we are going to name this component or we are going to name this file, because when we are going for debugging, right, that time it will show with it, this file will show with its name, right? So it will name our file in such a way that we can find it easily. That would be helpful, right? So here what I'll do is I'll write components, which is a Vue components, and then inside components we need to use all those, register all those components which we have imported above, right? So these two we have imported above, and then I will save it and then see how it goes. Now you can see a header over there and then ready to create an app, right? Next thing what I'm going to do is I'll just, okay, this is it, starting with ready to create an app. Let me go to home page and then see, yeah, this is it. So if you want to add more thing, you can add more thing inside this. For example, let's say I'm going to add blah 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 blah, right? I'll save it and let's see. You can see the new text appears here. So this is it about setting our project. We have almost set up our project successfully. Now moving forward, we'll follow some folder structure based on our project. Okay, we'll see that in the next video, right? So far we have set up a basic Golang project, right? And complete client application, that is Vue Ionic project, right? And we have installed all those dependencies related to client which we are going to use for client, right? And then hereafter we'll be just designing the page and the required functionality in the client. But before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a server, so that a basic server we can start, and then we should be able to trigger request from Postman or somewhere. And if you're not aware about Postman is nothing but a client library, not library, client application, from where you can trigger a request, network request to the server, right? So for that, for testing purpose, anyway we are going to create an API, right? So how we are going to call the API? We need some client, right? Either we are going to integrate that API directly in our application and trigger that, but for that we will require a lot of time, right? We'll reach that point, but it will take some time. So before that, for testing purpose, we are going to use Postman, and we'll test our API how it is working, or we need to fix that, whatever, we'll do that with Postman, right? So let's go back to server folder, where we'll install all those dependencies that is related to our server, and then finally we'll start the development in the next video, right? First let me go inside. What I'll do here is I'll just close this server for now, and I'll come a step for, I'll come one folder backward in the root folder, and then I'll go inside server folder. All right, and then here we need to install a couple of dependencies. How we are going to do that, we'll see that.
Okay, so finally we are inside server folder, and then all right, so we are inside server folder, and then we use go get command and then the package name, right? So in this case, since we are going to create application, Golang application with Ionic framework, whatever you want to say, Ionic, whatever, okay? So I'm saying Ionic. So what I'll do is I'll just give the package name over here in Ionic, and then it is going to be like this. You can get this package from the Ionic official website as well. So I took it from there. So I'll just click enter and let's see if it is getting downloaded. So you can see here it is getting downloaded, and it will also download the required dependencies that is being used inside the Ionic as well. So we'll having all those dependencies which is required for Ionic, and then we'll install a couple of more dependencies which we are going to use in our application, right? Let's wait a couple of minutes and we'll see if it is downloaded successfully or not. That's right. Let's wait a couple of more minutes and we will see then. Now we can see that this package has been downloaded successfully. Next we are going to install or get a package JWT that we are going to use for creating token and then make our application secure. So for that what we are going to do is we are going to do again the same thing, and the package name is Golang and then JWT and then JWT. I'll click enter and then see. Yeah, this is also being downloaded. You can see it has been downloaded successfully. There's mismatch of version, but we'll see that later. We are going to install one more dependencies, so that is related to the env configuration. So if you have heard about in env, what is env? Env is nothing but the environment, right? So the thing is, when we are going to run our application, right, and since the application is going to run on a port, right, it should open a port so that the request from outside world should land there, right? So for that we need a for that we need a port, and how we are going to use port is we cannot feed directly that in our application, since that is going to be a hard coded value, and if we want to change that at runtime, right, we cannot change that at runtime. For that what we do is we create an env file .env, we say, right, that is the convention .env file, and then we are going to keep all those variables or constant, you can say, in that env. So thing is, when our application is running and if we want to change some configuration for our application, we can just change that env file. So instead of creating that application again and go through complex testing process, right, we'll just change env property and then application will restart the application and it will be working fine. We'll see that in action next. So let me first download that package over here. So there is one package Joho and then go.env. I'll install that package. Okay, what error? All right, I use git. Sorry, I need to use go, right? Go get. So now you can see it has also been downloaded, right? Now I'll go here in project. You can see there's one file go.mode has been changed, right? And what exactly happens here is you can see there's a lot of dependencies added over here, right? Even though we have not used that so far, but it has been added since we added that package over here. So there's nothing to worry. One by one, if we'll use this package, it will be automatically linked, and then this yellow line will go. It's just giving us, like you can see here, is not used in this module, right? So, and you can also see here we have go.sum file created. Before that it was not there. So any dependency which we are going to install, right, so that dependency, for that dependency, Golang is creating a separate file, go.sum file, and it is maintaining its version, right? So that when we want to change the version, we should not be able to change until this go.sum file changes. In other words, we are saying to Golang, you are going to log these dependencies with the following version. All right. For example, let's say a version, I have installed Ionic with version A, but a latest version come with B. Now that B has some security error, or you can say a big problem with B version. and if Golang won't maintain this file, right, what what is going to happen is every time it is going to download the latest file, and then we will be getting the latest version, right? Once we will get the latest version, our application start crashing because of that error. So that is why we are locking the application in a specific version, so that everything, we can make sure everything is working fine in production without any issue. If later on we find any issue in that version, we'll just upgrade the version to the latest version. This is how we are maintaining, we are creating everything in the production application. That's cool, right? So now let me go inside main file. That is also fine. First thing what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create one folder over here, which is config. What I'm going to do here is inside this config, I'll create one file, env underscore config. Okay, moving forward, in the Golang application, every file which I'm going to name is, I'm going to follow snake casing, right? Not a snake, of course, yeah, snake casing. There's another case as well, like Pascal casing, camel casing, and kebab casing as well. But in this project, I'm going to follow snake casing, right? So I'll just put the name. It depends on you how you want to follow the file name structure. That completely depends on you, right? envconfig.go, every Go file should have extension .go, that of course you know, right? So here what I'll do is I will just start creating couple of methods. What does that will do is basically whatever environment property we are going to put in env variable, we'll create couple of methods to get those variable from env, so that we don't have to import in every file wherever we need. Let's say we need one variable, env variable, in 4 different files. So what we are going to do is we cannot import everywhere that package and then do that, right? Instead, we'll create some helper method and we'll import that package in using that helper method, right? So very first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this file under config package, and then I'm going to import that package over here. What was the package name? I remember github.com, and it was joho/go.env. All right. Yeah, it's showing correct. Now next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one variable which will hold env file throughout our application, not env file but the env property throughout the application, and then we can use that anywhere we want in the program. So here what I'll do is first I will env, and then I will name it is going to be of type config dto, for example, and then I'm going to create one struct type config dto. It is going to be of type struct, so that we can make sure unnecessary env file is not going to import from here, or we are not going to access unnecessary env file. If let's say for example someone intentionally put some env variable inside the env file, and then what it will do is it will take those env file as well. For that we are going to restrict using a struct, so that we need that env file only what we defined here. So very first thing what I'm going to define here is port, right? And then we need secret key as well for signing our JWT token. So I'm defining that before here. We'll see that later, but for now I'm defining that here. We need also database URL, that is also going to be of type string. Now finally our config dto is okay. One thing you noticed here, as soon as I click save, that import has deleted from here. Why? Because since we imported that package but we have not used some anywhere in the program, so Golang won't allow unnecessary package or unnecessary thing that has been imported and it is not being used. It will automatically delete that, or you have to manually delete that. So finally what we are going to do is I'm going to create one function, and I'm going to name it as config env. All right. What it is going to do is I will create config DTO here, config DTO, right? And it will initialize all those variable from the config and put it inside the DTO. So for that, we are going to use OS package, and OS package has one of the functionality get env, you can see, right? And here we just need to pass the name of the env which is present there in the .env file. So for that, what we are going to do here is on the root level of server, I'm going to create one file with name .env. All right, and here I'm going to define that port equals to, for example, I'm going to put 8667, right? I'll save it. You can define any number here that range between 0 to 65,500. There's some range for the port, right? So for that, you can define any port over here, and then finally what I'll do here is I'll give the exact name which is defined there in env file. Fine. And then I'll initialize secret key as well, and same thing what I'm going to do here is I'll just copy it and paste it over here. So now the secret key is going to be named as secret and then key. All right, and I'll put the secret key later, but for now I'm going to define the name. And then finally I will put database, or we can say MongoDB URL. You can say if I'm going to use MongoDB for this project, right? So I will put MongoDB URL over here, and then since MongoDB is going to run on MongoDB, right, local host, and then the port is going to be, I believe, 27017, right? So I'll paste the MongoDB link over here, but we are going to play with the MongoDB later on. First we'll just assemble all those basic requirements just to make this application up and running, so that we can trigger a request from outside. At least we should be able to ping request from outside, and then it will be returning some message based on that, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same name which I have defined there. If you are going to use different name here, then of course you're not going to get the value, right? So I'll just copy paste, and I'll do the same thing with the database URL, and here I'm going to put MongoDB URL, since I'm going to use MongoDB for this project, right? Now we have initialized the env, right? Actually we should not do like this. Instead we are going to assign it here on the global level, right? We have defined env as a property at the global level of this file. I will save it, and then one more thing what it will do is whenever we'll call this config env function, what it will do is it will fetch for that a specific variable from the env using os.getEnv functionality, right? Os is one of the package, right? And then it will assign those config DTO to this particular env, so that whenever we want this env anywhere in the program, we'll just import this env property and call any one of these key, right? But since this key is, you can see I named it as a small casing, right? So we won't be able to access this key at all, that is for sure, because Golang is case sensitive, and anything which we are going to define with the name with a small casing, Golang is going to restrict that to that specific package only. We cannot access that out of that package, right? So for that we'll create a separate method, and we'll expose those method only to get the variable. That method will be responsible for just to get the variable. But since if we are going to use env directly, and if I'm going to give access for this port, if I'll just make it a capital P, it will be exposed outside, and it can be changed from anywhere in the program. That is not good, or that is not a principle of encapsulation, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to encapsulate all those things, and the things which we don't want to expose, we don't need to expose that. All right, now enough talking. We'll create a couple of more methods and we'll see. So our config env method is ready, right? At the top, very top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write init function, okay? So if you're aware of this init function in Golang or not, I'm not sure, but init function is nothing. Any Golang file may have this init function, and whenever that Golang file is being executed, before the main function also this init function will get executed. This is the default function provided by Golang, and the use cases of this init function is exact the same. Golang said if you want to initialize anything, you can put your initialization code inside this init function, right? And that's the beauty of Golang. This is how we can make sure like everything is placed as per its need. Init is nothing but initialize, right? So we are going to initialize variable, all the variable here itself. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one function environment variable, right? All right. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to use go.env package, go.env, right? And then it has one load function. What it will actually do is it will load all those env property that is present inside env file, right? And even though we are going to use os.getEnv, until this code is running successfully, it won't load that, it won't map that env file to this os package, right? Not os package, but somewhere in the os, right? In the Golang program. That's why we are going to use this go.env load package. It will internally, this load function will internally load that env variable to our application. All right. So now this load functionality will return an error. If there's an error, of course we need to handle that error. We are going to check if error not equals to nil, right? So what we are going to do is we are just going to log.fatal. If there's no env file, there's no point of running our application, since our application is going to be modular and it should follow some good practices. So for that we are going to put some of the variable in the env file, and if it is not there, of course we are not going to run it, right? So for that what we are going to do is we are going to put fatal. Okay, fatal is one function, right? So I will put error loading env variable. All right. Now next thing, if it is being successfully loaded, right? So what else we need to do? Nothing. So I will define one more function, get env property. But before that I'm going to create one more function which will be helpful to get env from this specific struct. As I said earlier, I'm not going to expose any one of these from here, since it is going to be a security issue, or it should not be changed outside of this package or outside of this file. So instead of using that, we directly using that, I'm going to expose one method. Using that method, from everywhere, anywhere inside the program we want to access some of the env property, we'll just call those function and then we'll access that. For that, internally what I'm going to do is access field. I'm going to create one function, access field, and I'm going to name it as a key. We'll just provide the key and then we'll get the value. All right. So it is going to return two things, string and then error, right? And then here what I'm going to do is value, right? I'm going to use reflect package for this, right? What reflect package will do, it is a, you can say it is a advanced package in Golang to handle the different kinds of variable, right? We'll talk on reflect package in a separate video, but for now you can use this reflect dot, then I'll put
there's one function value of. Okay, so what it will do is it will return a value, raw value, and it will be a type of value actually, right? So here what I'm going to put is env. Fine. What this line will do actually, this will take out this env, raw env struct. Okay, and then we are going to check, sorry, first what we are going to do is we are going to check the type of the this value, right? So what I'll do is v dot type. Why I'm not able to access the type? V dot type. Okay, so here I'm making it fine. Now I'm going to check the type if t dot kind, right? If t dot kind not equals to reflect, right? Reflect dot struct. Okay, so this package, this reflect package has some of the cool awesome methods through which we can compare the variable type as well. So what exactly we did here is we just loaded env here. Env is nothing but a struct, you can see here, right? We have defined a struct and then assigned those struct to env, right? So it will load env and then we are going to check if it is a struct or not, right? This way we can make sure, this way we are restricted, we are going to restrict this, it should be of type struct since we have defined it as a type of a struct, right? So here if it does not matches, then of course we are going to return some error from here. We'll return empty string and then fmt dot error of, right? And here we can put expected struct, right? Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip one variable, not skip, but I'm going to access one variable with the field by name. So now you will understand what exactly I'm trying to do. What exactly I'm trying to do is if I'm not exposing any variable, any properties outside of this struct, we are not able to access it, right? But the thing is it should be accessible using the name, exact name what we defined here, right? If we are going to define it with some name, right, we should be able to access with exact name, but from the outside we don't know what name exists there, right? So we'll just come here, we'll see, okay, port, so we'll just provide the key as a port and then it will get the value back, right? That's what we are going to do here. So now what I'll do here is I will provide that key which is coming inside this function as a parameter, right? And then this will return two things, right? One is the value and other one is the value, other one is whether it is there or not, right? Now if it is not there, then again if not, okay, that means we are going to return of course empty and then fmt dot print, not print, we are going to return error actually, right? So here what we are going to say is property could not be found, right? That's the actual error which we want to return. And then if it is there, in that case what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out, or we can say if equals to v dot filled by name, right? Value dot filled by name, or not filled by name but the struct itself, right? Filled by name, and here what we are going to do is put the key, right? So in this case we'll, based on the key, we will get the value, actual value, and then finally we are going to return f, and since f is the f will be the value, right? Raw value, it is of type reflect dot value, which is of course going to be an interface, right? That we will talk later, but since we need a string value out of it, so what we will do is we'll just convert it to a string, and then the error will be nil. All right. Now we have this method config env load env variable as well as access field, right? There's one noticeable point over here is why I make this load in env variable as public. Why? Because if we want to set it from somewhere else also, we can set this variable, or we can just load that variable. Maybe because of some reason, if it's not getting loaded successfully, we can use this method from here and then force it to load the env variable. All right. So now finally I'm going to expose one functionality from here, which is get env property. All right. What it will do is it will just accept one key string, and then finally it is going to return a string only. And if property could not be found, of course I'm going to return empty string, right? And then elsewhere in the program it can be handled accordingly. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to check if env dot, let's check for port, very first thing, because it's a basic requirement to run a Golang application. And here we will check for the port. If port is not there, means of course we need to initialize env, right? We call the env file, and then finally what we will do is we will access the field using the key that is getting passed here, and we know that this method will return either key or the error. So for that I'm going to put a value and then error, right? Fine. Now what I'll do is if there's any error, that means error not equals to nil, I'm going to do what should we do? I'm just going to print, let's say I'm going to, of course we need to return value, right? And then along with that I'm going to print something over here. Let's say I'm going to print same error over here. All right. And then finally here also I'm going to return value. All right. So now this function is public, and we can use this function to get any env variable anywhere we want in the program. So this is how we are going to make our code modular and configurable, right? We learned how we are going to configure env, how we are going to take data, how we are going to map using go.env, right? We also learned OS package, how we are going to use OS package to get env properties, right? That all we learned here. So that is it for this env configuration file. And then finally in init function, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call config env. All right. So it will call this function and it will initialize this variable. Finally, one more thing we can do over here is we can abstract this env as well, since we don't need this anywhere. So it's better we can do, let me just env, wait, I will select all those env at once. Let me select exact the same env, right? And what I'll put here is a small env, so that we are not going to expose it anywhere, right? We'll be just exposing a single, not a single, but the 2-3 function over here. Config env is also going to be exposed, and then load env variable is also going to expose, and then get env property finally. But of course we are going to use this get env property throughout the program wherever we need it, right? I hope I'm clear. If you have any doubt, any questions, you can put that all queries in the comment section. I will try to answer all of that as early as possible. So this is it for this file. Now I will go back to main file, and we'll do a couple of stuff here so that our application is up and running successfully. All right, so now we are going to set up our main file, right? Previously we set up all the env related configuration and we exposed couple of methods which we are going to use in our application if we are going to use that here, right? So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put I'm going to use Gin framework for that, right? We have already discussed we are going to use Gin framework. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import, not import, but I'm going to use Gin router. For that we need to import Gin framework here, Gin package here, and then on Gin package we are having one functionality default. That's the access of Gin application, you can say router. Instead of router you can say app, right? And then app is having function use. So using use function, it is expecting some kind of middleware function. And what is middleware function, that all we will know in the upcoming session, right? But as of now you just need to remember it, what we are doing here, but I will tell you the reason why we are doing here, right? So app.use, I will use gin.recovery. What does that mean is recovery is one of the function. What it will do is if our application is going to be crashed because of some reason, right? So this recovery will automatically restart our application. That's the concept of using gin.recovery, and it is of course a middleware function. Next, what I'm going to use is I'm going to just create a ping app is having one get. Okay, so here I'm going to create a ping API so that if I'll ping this a specific routes, right, a specific API, it should be able to give some response so that we can know, yeah, this application is running successfully, right? Later on, when we are going for production deployment, of course we are going to remove it, but for the testing purpose, as of now we are going to keep it. So next, it expect one function which is going to be of course type, where we have the signature of gin context, and everything which we are going to use for the API, that all is going to present on where the context, gin context, the request object, the response object, that all access we are having in context, right? We can use gin context to access all those in our functionalities and then perform the action or perform the next action based on that, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to return one response. So what I'll do is ctx.json, and it is expecting two things. One is your code, and then second one is going to be the object which is getting passed in the body, right? So here what I'll do is 200, let's say, and then I need one object here. So what we can do here is either we can say gin.h, which will return us map of string any, or we can create that manually as well. So like this we can use, right? So here what, so this is just example which I have given you, but you can, instead of this I'm going to use gin.h for now, but later on in the program of course I'm going to use some custom error, you can say, not only error, but we are going to send the response in the specified format, in a specific format. All right, we'll see that in next video. So for now I'm just going to return gin.h, and then here I'm going to put message, and I will put app, or we can say server is running fine, right? You can put any message, it is just for demonstration purpose, right? So and then of course we can return the status code as well here. So I will say 200, right? Now we created a very basic API which we can access it from the outside. How we are going to do that, we'll see that. So here what I'm going to do is finally I'm going to call app.run functionality. All right, and then what this run will do, okay, it needs one address. So now this app should run on some port. Address is nothing, I believe it is going to be a port. So what I'll do here is I'll pass those address over here, or let's just run this and let's see how it goes, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to server folder. First let me clear this console so that we can visualize it, and then cd server, right? Finally here what we are going to do is we are going to run this application, go run and main.go. I will click enter and let's see how it goes. It is taking some time for compilation. It depends on the machine, how fast it is running, but it should be run as soon as possible. Still it's taking time. It should not take this much of time actually. It should compile very fast because of that's why we are going to use Golang, right? Golang is blazing fast in its compilation, as well as we have a lot of flexibility while we are going to code. So we'll see that all in action, but for now let's see how it goes. So it will ask us to allow the network request to this application. I will click on allow access. Okay, fine. Now we can see listening and serving HTTP on port default port 8080, since we have not feeded any port over here, right? But we need this application to run on a specific port. How we are going to do that? For that only we set up those env configuration, right? And then this is going to pick that port from here. So now what I'm going to do is I will just access this functionality and take out that port value and use that in our application. I'll show you here. So what I'm going to do here is I will just write port and then get env property, right? But it is present where in the config, right? So we need to import that package over here, config dot, you can see here, what is this? This is nothing but our main Go application module, right? So all those packages is going to come inside this module, right? So it will be present everywhere where we are going to import that. It is going to relative to this package, this module, right? All the package is going to be relative to this module. So you can see whole module name and then the package name is going to be config, right? So now I'm going to use get env property, and what are all method present here? Let's see. Config DTO is there since it is we are exposing it, and then all these three functions which we saw earlier in that env config, right? So for now I'm going to use get env property, and then of course we define it with name port, so I'm going to access it using port, and then finally I will pass this port over here. I will save it, but nothing happens, right? So why? Because every time we make any changes to this file, we have to go and explicitly rerun this application so that the latest changes get reflected there. But to avoid that scenario, we will be writing 1,000 lines of code, right? Every time we cannot write code and then go back to console and rerun the application, right? That's kind of irritating, that's kind of time consuming, right? For that, what we are going to do is we are going to use one package air, which I have installed already. I will be sharing that how you are going to install that air package in some other videos, but for now I'm going to use that. I'll show you for sure. I'll show you in the next video. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just close this for now. Let me close this application, clear it, and I'm going to use air and then init. Or else if you have curiosity or you want to download it as early, right? So what you can do here is I'll just remove, close this, and then you can search air for Golang. All right. So there's lot of blogs, lot of feeds there. You can follow that feed and download it, right? So what I'll do is I'll just use it we can use air init. What it will do is it will initialize the air package here inside the Golang folder. Okay, now what is the role of this air package? It is nothing but it will continuously watch for the folder or file changes. If we are going to do any file changes inside this Golang server package, server folder, it is going to be notified, and then it will automatically rebuild it and restart it, so that every time we make any changes, we save it, the latest code will be there, latest build will be there. We don't have to manually restart and stop the server. That's cool, right? It's saving a lot of time, development time, right? So anything which is going to save a lot of development time, of course we need to run behind that, right? So what I will do here is, instead of using main go run command, I will use air, and then I'll put enter. You can see here now our application is getting started using air command, right? And how it is happening, all the configuration related things that air is maintaining inside this air.toml file. Okay, so based out of this configuration, air is just restarting those files. I'll show you in just couple of minutes. Before that, what I will do is I will try to access this specific routes which we have defined here as ping, right? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'll just go here and then http and then localhost, and then our port is 8667, right? And I will click on ping. Let's see if we are getting any message or not. Okay, the site is still not accessible. So let's go back to code. Why it is so? Listening and serving http on, there's nothing. That means this port is not coming over there. So let me just print that port over here, if it is successfully getting imported or not. Let's see. So I'll just print this port. Let me save it. Now you can see it is building automatically, right? Even though we just click on control save. That's the beauty of, you can say, this package air. All right, so here app started successfully, but we didn't get any of this port over here, and that means there is some error, or there's some warning must be there. It is not able to access that port. Let's debug that. I will go here and then put, I'll save it. That doesn't matter actually, it should work even without space, even with a space as well. So port is fine. Now I'll go in env config, and then I'm calling get env property, right? So if env.port is not there, it will try to initialize the port config env, right? Config env, fine. But before that, I think since we are just directly using os.getEnv here, right, it won't work properly because till now we have not loaded this. So for that, what we need to do over here is first, okay, yeah, what we are going to do here is we'll just check for the specific env, and if port is coming as, if port equals to empty, and then in that case we know that this port or env variable has not yet mapped with our OS, right, our application. So for that we need to do load environment variable. I will just click save, and then let's see how it goes. Error listening TCP address 8667 missing port in address. So why is that so? I believe I should go back to main application, and here think it should be coming here. Okay, port is getting listening and serving on 8667. That's fine. But why then? Why we are getting error over here? So run. Okay, it's expecting address. That's fine. Address and then router. That is also fine. So what could be the possible error? Pause this video, and if parallelly you want to search for the error, you can do that as well, right? That's the basic concept of debugging. So anything which can be debugged as early as possible, any issue which can be found as early as possible, that is appreciable. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see the documentation, how it works.
So okay, I found the error. What error is exactly there? What we need to do is we need to use colon just before the port. So for that, what we can do is we can just use fmt dot printf function so that we can format that here. So here what I'm going to do is concat those string over here, right? So I'm going to pass over port over here and I'll save it. Let's see how it works. So basically what this gin is expecting is this gin function is expecting colon just before the port number so that it can consider it as a exact port. That's the format which this gin function run function is expecting, right? Now we can see listening and serving HTTP on it now, right? Now let's see, let's go back here and we'll try to server is running fine and the status code which we are passing from here, right? That is working as per our expectation. So this was it for this video. We have set up the client. We have added all those required dependencies in client as well as server. We have initialized all this env property in the env file and then we created a package which is config and then env config file through which we have exported couple of methods so that we can use couple of helper methods so that we can use it anywhere in the program to access those env related variables, right? And how we did that, of course we used reflect package so that we can verify match its type and the key exactly, right? So now lastly what we did is we just make our application gin application up and running successfully. For that we used gin router. We gained the access of application using gin.default, and then on application we have a use method. Using that we can put gin.recovery so that if any error happens in the program, right, it should be able to restart the application and then it should be working perfectly fine, right? For that we have used gin.recovery, and what middleware function is, we'll talk that on in the upcoming videos. It's just another one very interesting topic, very interesting videos, right? So now here we have created one API, ping API, so that we can know whether this application is working fine or not. This is just for our testing purpose. When we are finally going to build this application, we are going to remove it from our application so that no one is going to access it directly from outside application and load our server, right? Of course we are going to put a lot of things security there, but still this API is going to open, and if it is accessible outside means we can have lot of requests and server may go down, right? So for that we are going to do that, and then what we did is we access those port variable and passed it to run functionality, and then this application is running on the specific port. This is what we have learned so far for our Golang server. This is the very basic example. This is very basic code that we did to make our application up and running, and it can be accessible from outside on a specific port. That's the beauty of Golang, right? We don't have to write much code. We'll just write a couple of codes and then it is working fine, right? And then coming back to client, we have removed all those TypeScript dependencies, and TypeScript file we have changed those into JavaScript, since we are going to use JavaScript, and then related files we have changed. And apart from that, we have installed all those dependencies like Axios that we are going to see in the upcoming videos, right? Still, we have not set up whole project folder exactly. Why? Because as we'll proceed in the program, we'll start creating one by one, so that in each phase of the development you will know what exactly has to be there, it, what requirement, what is your requirement, and what will fulfill your requirement. So I want that you to know in each step of this course, right? That would be much helpful. And if you guys are facing any issues, you can reach out to me and put down your comments in the comment section. If you like this video, put like on this video. Please do subscribe my channel, right? That will help me, that will encourage me to create more video, more informative video on the Golang, Vuejs, or whatever tech stack you guys want from me. So thank you guys, thank you so much, and we will meet in the next video.